Welcome everyone to another episode of Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to do a deep dive on intermittent fasting. This topic I've covered numerous times and worthy of us covering it again. Today we're going to do it real simple, really easy. We're going to talk about the three benefits of intermittent fasting and also the three pitfalls. Where are people going wrong? I will tell you this. I still think that intermittent fasting is one of the best tools that we should have in our toolbox. We should have it nice and sharp. We should have it available to use at any given time for many, many things across the board when it comes to our health, which I will discuss today. I'm going to say that there's three benefits, but I'm probably going to sneak in a whole bunch of other ones. And again, listen to the pitfalls as well, because this is where people kind of go wrong. So if in the event that you have done some intermittent fasting in the past, you're like, oh, I tried that. Let's go back. Let's go back and we'll discover today why just trying it isn't something that we should do. We really should have this as a tool that we should be incorporating every week in our lives as a tool for us to be better, stronger, more powerful, awesome human beings. All right, with that being said, once again, thank you for keep doing your thing, which is keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. We're getting a little bigger, which is cool. So that only happens, meaning we're only able to spread the love as a result of you guys doing your thing, liking, following, sharing this on YouTube, sharing it in your, your social media, all that kind of good stuff. So keep doing that. I appreciate it. All right, let's dive in today. So intermittent fasting, three benefits, three pitfalls. We're going to go right into the benefits here today, and then do not lose me. We got to listen to the pitfalls because this is where things get a little, wonky. And this is also why on social media, you often hear people like, oh, intermittent fasting isn't good, and then they'll kind of fill in the blank. That's not true. When done properly, intermittent fasting is an amazing tool for just about everyone on the face of this earth. All right, that being said, benefits. Number one, here's my this is number one for me. There's several that follow this. The number one reason I think intermittent fasting is good is because it gives us emotional discipline. So hear me out on this. We have all been manipulated in the sense of our consciousness and our abilities to use food as a resource. It should be to refuel and repower the human body of deficiencies like amino acids and fatty acids, etc. We don't really use it that way anymore. We're starting to, hopefully, you guys are listening to this, you're starting to think about how do I refuel my body. But for the most part, follow this little story here. We've figured out, or we've been kind of programmed to use food and then later in life alcohol to solve all of our problems, all of our woes. And even if we don't have problems, it becomes the thing that we focus on the most in our lives. So follow me here. So let's just say at around 2-3 years old, you start having birthday parties where what's the big part of the birthday party? It is the moment that you get the cake. So we start to associate good things with sugar. That's where it starts. Then a little bit down the road, we get into school, and if you get good grades on your report card, you get rewarded with what? You get rewarded with desserts and ice creams and stuff like that. Now, along the way, what also happens is when you're sick, you got a bellyache, you got a throat ache, you got something wrong with your throat, you got a little bit of cold, you get to stay home, and what happens? Maybe that day you get a little extra ice cream or you get something different, but we start to associate that food becomes the answer to everything. And then a little bit later in life, maybe you get one of those report cards and you're 9, 10, 12 years old and grades aren't so good. And maybe you don't get dessert. Or we start to just on a regular basis get programmed to the fact that if you eat your meal, you do something good, you get to have dessert. So the food becomes the answer to all of our problems. If we don't like what we're doing, we change it with food. A little bit later in life, we start to incorporate alcohol and we use it the same way. And again, my whole point of this is intermittent fasting. My single biggest benefit, I think, is the emotional discipline it takes to intermittent fast, because it forces us to put aside all of this pre-programming we've had about using food and alcohol to manipulate how we feel. So a little bit later in life, we have people, I don't know, you get married, food and alcohol. You have a baby, food and alcohol. Someone dies, food and alcohol. So food and alcohol become the answer to everything. You guys get my point here. So number one reason, emotional discipline. So that's number one. The second part of this is that this where it gets a little wonky, and just hear me out. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, the highlight of the day is eating. How do we know that? They start in the morning fantasizing about what they're going to eat later for lunch, what they're going to eat at dinner. And I use that word fantasizing because I want to stick it a little bit to us thinking about how much we revolve our lives around this thing we call eating, just so we get a little bit of a dopamine push. So what would be awesome as we get into the other benefits is that we can put all that aside. We can skip over those and have some level of a timeout. So just know that the emotional component of saying, no, I'm not going to eat right now, I can skip that and I'm going to be fine. I'll be just as happy. I'll feel just as good, just as productive. And we do it all the time. How do we know this? There are absolutely times, everyone listening to this, you were scheduled to eat a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, and something happened and you skipped it. And guess what? You lived. You did just fine. In fact, you might even did better. You might have even done better as a result of skipping that particular meal. So number one benefit is the emotional discipline it takes to not just be on schedule, not just to get up and eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat dinner. Every time you feel a little bored, a little bit tired, to move toward eating something to change how you feel. So I love the component of emotional discipline, number one. Now there's some other true benefits when it comes to the physical body. So number two is going to be that the benefit of just having a timeout. If you've heard me speak before, you know that this is one of my favorite things that intermittent fasting does. I'll cover briefly in just a moment what it looks like. But nonetheless, when we have a timeout, so many things are happening. We just get to balance our blood sugar levels. If that's all that happened, beautiful. Meaning that you have a lot of sugar, carbohydrates that are converted into sugar circulating through your body. And for a moment, you stop putting all those in and you have to burn up those sugars. You burn up those carbs as a fuel source. So balances out your blood sugar levels. Phenomenal. Huge win when it comes to your metabolic health. Absolutely awesome. Sometimes that timeout just allows enough time so your gut can start to heal. Healing up things like leaky gut. Maybe that timeout is just enough time so you can then starve off things like candida. So there's so many benefits of just having a timeout. Well, again, I'm going to discuss what basic intermittent fasting looks like in just a moment. The third one that I want to talk about here in terms of benefit is weight loss. Now, that comes with a wait a minute here timeout. Does intermittent fasting by itself cause weight loss? The data and the research will tell us no, it doesn't. That's where the big argument comes in. Yet I will tell you that clinically, I find that people who intermittent fast successfully, properly, without the pitfalls, always lose weight. They always do much better because they're going to have less caloric intake because they're making better food choices. But we have to listen to the pitfalls when it comes to the intermittent fasting because that's where people run into a problem, and that is where things get thrown off with the research and the data behind intermittent fasting and weight loss. All right, I'm going to throw a couple in here. So I want to throw one more in here. I said 3 benefits. I'm going to give you number 4. Number 4 is better energy utilization. Folks, when we don't eat the carbs and we don't have the sugar for an extended period of time, we get 16, 17, 18 hours into it, your body eventually gets into something called ketosis. And then you get to use tools such as ketones as a fuel source, which is a much better fuel source for the human body. It's cleaner. So think of ketones as clean gas and sugar as dirty. It always creates an inflammatory situation where we start to develop systemic inflammation. So just the fact that you're going to eventually start to use a different fuel source, that's when we see things like the brain fog go away, your mind is a little bit more clear, your body's work a little bit better, you have more autophagy, your mitochondria starts to function, etc. Like I said, I could go on for the benefits of intermittent fasting, on and on and on, but I'm going to stick to those 3. 1, being emotional discipline. It's one of my absolute favorite, to be able to not let the discomfort of being bored, the discomfort of being emotional, the discomfort of being stressed, the discomfort of not knowing what to do, or just the patterns and the habits that happen when we just get up and it's 12 o'clock. What do we do? We're supposed to eat lunch. The emotional discipline that you can express during those times, I love intermittent fasting for. The second, of course, is the timeout effect. And then the third benefit could be weight loss when done properly. And of course, the fourth is clean energy source. All right, with all that being said, what are some of the pitfalls? And I'll discuss also in this brief moment here how we should intermittent fast. So number one pitfall is that people are using intermittent fasting as a starvation diet. Folks, that's not what we're supposed to do. And ladies, I'm calling you out for a moment here because for the most part, that's what I've seen a lot of women do over time. It's almost given them permission, which is not supposed to be, to just say, I'm not going to eat. and I'm going to starve myself, and this is how I'm going to lose weight. And listen, short term, no doubt. When it comes to the calories, if you just stop eating, you're going to lose some weight, right? So the challenge is the rebound effect. And what happens here is we will see that bounce back and essentially be a pitfall for us, because if you're using it as a starvation diet, you're seeing how long can I intermittent fast? I'll go 16, 18, 20 hours. I'm not going to eat all day. What happens is, which I'm going to get to in just a moment, is another pitfall is how you break your fast. So number 2 here is this, is that we are not prepared properly to intermittent fast. So if I was going to have you, let's say, start running, you're going to do a marathon. Would I start you at 26.2 miles? Hell no, I wouldn't. You have to get fit to run a marathon. And intermittent fasting is the same way. To do it properly, we need to practice. And here's a schedule that I would suggest for you. If you've never intermittent fast before, have no idea what I'm talking about, for 12 hours, don't eat. Preferably, I'm going to tell you the easy way this is at night. So you have your last meal at 7 p.m., don't eat again until 7 a.m. So that's, and many of you listening to this be like, wow, I can do that all day long. And during that time, yes, you can have coffee or tea or water or bone broth, no big deal. And so that's 12 hours. Ideally, everyone listening to this, including myself, should be able to go 18 hours, no problem. I'm not telling you all to go 18 hours every day, but the ability to do that, the functional fitness of intermittent fasting, because here's why. Listen, folks, if you eat in 18 hours ago, you have plenty of fuel sources. You have the nutrients in your body. It is the utilization, the fitness of being able to utilize those tools is really what's in question here. So to work yourself up, do 12 hours, do it steady for a couple of weeks, and then add a couple hours. Maybe get up to 14 hours every day. I find most women on any given day really thrive in the category of the time frame of 14 to 16 hours every day of intermittent fasting, and then move forward with it. And again, of course, if you're pregnant and stuff like that, I don't encourage that. Just 12 hours is fine. Yeah. And then guys, I find that you, as you get fit for this, work up to that 16, 17, maybe even 18 hours a day, 4 or 5, maybe 6 days a week, where you can intermittent fast for that period of time. Phenomenal. You will just find yourself functioning better. Never mind all the time you're going to get back in your life, not fantasizing and about food and preparing meals. And so here's comes to the pitfalls again. Number 1, starvation diet. Number 2, not prepared properly, where you think, well, I heard on this podcast, or I heard on Instagram or Facebook that you should do 16 hours every day. That's the best for autophagy, or 24 hours is the best for immune regulation. Folks, we have to get fit to do these things. I can't tell you how many people I have to come in and be like, Doc, what do you think about a 3-day water fast? It's almost unanswerable, because for who? For why? For what? And if you have a really poor diet, do I think you should jump to a 3-day water fast? No, probably you're going to create more chaos than actually anything good. So getting fit to intermittent fast is a huge issue for a lot of people. Take your time with it. Get really good at it. You should be able to intermittent fast. Everyone in this listening to this today should be able to go 18 hours. I'm not telling you to do it every day, but you should be fit enough where you've worked up to it. You've had plenty of time at 12 hours, plenty of time at 14 hours, plenty of time at 16 hours. And eventually, if you need to skip a meal, you think that you were supposed to, eat at lunchtime at noon, and all of a sudden you had a meeting, you had to take a call, you had to go pick up your kid, and you couldn't eat for another 2, 3, 4 hours. Hopefully you still function fine as a human being, meaning that you didn't lose your mind, you didn't get into that hangry state, which leads me to my next one, is the pitfall number 3 is breaking your fasting properly. And this usually is indicative of the other 2 things. So if you're on a starvation diet, and here's one of the ways you know, that when you go to break your fast, you're ravenous and you need to eat now, and you're going to eat anything that's around you because you are freaking hungry. And that means that you will have bad choices. This is problematic. This is also what's going to inhibit you from losing your weight. So because now you're just going to put calories back into your body, it doesn't matter what type of calories, and you can end up overeating your calories and overeating because you know that you're going back into a starvation diet. So how we break our fast, which is why I'm going to encourage everyone, break your fast with proteins, break your fast with fats. Literally, a grass-fed burger with some cheese. That's a great way to do it. Some sardines, fantastic. And I know many of you don't like those, but that's my point here. we also have to allow ourselves to migrate into different foods. If you're emotionally missing your pasta and your bread, your muffins and your pizza and all that kind of stuff, then understand that's more of an emotional issue because you do not miss those nutrients. Those are an emotional issues that you have wrapped around your food. So the three pitfalls: using intermittent fasting as a starvation diet. Number two is that you are not fit enough to do or to go as long as you're trying to do it. So we need to stair step those things. And number three is breaking your fasting properly. All right. That being said, that's a good, short, quick one here. Listen, folks, I love intermittent fasting as a tool for us to continue to be good, strong, powerful human beings that have control over our emotional states. If you have an intermittent fast, you get away from it, go back to these reasons. And again, not just for weight loss, that is the side effect, but do it because you want to become a healthy, strong human being that's going to be on this planet highly functioning for as long as you possibly can. All right, folks, with that being said, keep doing the thing, keep sharing out, keep spreading love, and of course, continue to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. God bless.